The blizzard had finally ceased, leaving behind a crystalline wasteland that stretched endlessly across the frozen moon of Calith 9. Raven trudged through knee-deep snow, her thermal suit struggling against the -70-degree atmosphere. Beside her, two massive Terran hounds, Ghost and Shadow, bounded ahead, their genetically modified bodies built for exactly this kind of hell. Raven, the distress beacon's getting stronger. Lucian's voice crackled through her helmet comm. He was half a click behind her, manning their expedition rover. Whatever it is, you're close. Copy that, she replied, her breath fogging the inside of her visor. The dogs have picked up something. They're acting strange. Ghost, the larger of the two hounds, had stopped abruptly. His companion mirrored the behavior, both animals whining in a way Raven had never heard before. Not aggressive, not fearful. Something else entirely. Then she saw them. Two small figures lay motionless in the snow, partially buried by the recent storm. At first, Raven thought they were children, human children, but as she drew closer, her heart hammered against her ribs. Their skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, shifting between deep purples and blues. Forearms each, delicate and thin, large almond-shaped eyes that seemed too big for their faces now closed against the brutal cold. Lucian, I've got two alien juveniles here, Raven said, dropping to her knees beside them. They're alive, but barely hypothermic, maybe worse. Aliens. Out here? Lucian's voice pitched higher. Raven, we don't know what... They're dying, she snapped, her gloved hands already moving across the first child's body, checking for wounds. They're just children, Lucian. Twins, by the look of them. The dogs had positioned themselves on either side of the alien children, lying down and pressing their warm bodies against the small forms. It was instinctive, Raven realized. The hounds recognized helpless young regardless of species. She activated her suit's medical scanner. The readings made her stomach drop. Both aliens were in critical condition. Their core temperature was catastrophically low, even accounting for potential species differences. Their dual-chambered hearts were beating irregularly. Without intervention, they had minutes, not hours. I'm bringing them in, Raven announced. Are you insane? Lucian's response was immediate. We don't know what diseases they might carry. What if they're dangerous? What if this is some kind of trap? Raven looked down at the tiny, fragile beings. One of them, she couldn't tell if it was male or female by human standards, had its forearms wrapped around the other, even in unconsciousness. Protecting. Loving. Look at them, Lucian. Does this look like a trap to you? She didn't wait for his response. With practiced efficiency, Raven began wrapping the first child in a thermal blanket from her emergency pack. The alien's skin was like touching frozen silk and so cold it burned through her gloves. She worked on the second child, her hands moving with desperate speed. Ghost, Shadow, stay close, she commanded. The dogs obeyed immediately, flanking her as she lifted the first child into her arms. The alien weighed almost nothing, light as a bird despite being nearly a meter tall. The trek back to the rover felt like a lifetime. Raven's muscles screamed in protest, her suit's power supply draining rapidly to keep both her and her fragile cargo warm. She'd wrapped the second child in her own thermal layer, risking hypothermia herself. The dogs pressed close, their bodies creating a moving windbreak. When the rover finally came into view, Lucian was already outside, the rear cargo bay open and converted into a makeshift medical station. His face was unreadable behind his helmet, but Raven knew him well enough to recognize the set of his shoulders. He was scared, but he was ready. Get them inside, he said simply. I've rigged the heating units to max. It's going to drain our power reserves, but they're worth it, Raven finished, carefully carrying the first twin into the bay. The warmth hit her like a physical wave. For the next 3 hours, Raven and Lucian worked in frantic tandem. They stripped away the alien's frozen clothing, delicate garments woven from materials that shimmered like starlight. They wrapped the children in every thermal blanket they had. Lucian jury-rigged an IV system based on the medical scanner's analysis of the alien's biochemistry, pumping warmed fluids into their systems. The dogs never left their posts, lying on either side of the makeshift beds, their body heat a constant supplement to the rover's heating system. It was Shadow who first noticed the change. The dog's tail began to wag slowly, and a small whine escaped his throat. Raven looked up from the medical console to see one of the twins stirring. The large eyes fluttered open, a brilliant amber color that seemed to glow in the dim light of the rover. The alien child looked at Raven, then at Lucian, then at the massive dog pressed against its side. There should have been fear. Terror, even. Instead, the small being reached out with one delicate hand and touched Shadow's fur. The dog's tail wagged harder. The word came out mangled, the alien's vocal cords clearly not designed for human speech, but the meaning was unmistakable. Thank you. The second twin woke moments later, immediately reaching for its sibling. The four hands intertwined, and both children looked at their human rescuers with expressions that transcended species. Gratitude, wonder, and something that might have been hope. Lucian met Raven's eyes across the cargo bay. We're going to have to explain this to the colonial authority. Raven smiled, watching as Ghost nuzzled the second twin, earning a sound that might have been laughter. Let them try to tell us we were wrong. Later, when the twins' family arrived, a massive diplomatic vessel that had been searching desperately for their lost children, the alien diplomats would speak of the humans with reverence. They would tell their people of the species that found 2 dying children in the snow and risked everything to save them. Not for gain, not for politics, simply because it was right. And in the halls of 1,000 alien worlds, humanity's reputation would shift, not as conquerors or traitors, but as something far more profound, as people who would brave the cold, drain their power reserves, and give the thermal blankets off their own backs for children they'd never met. Because that's what humans did. That's what made them unthinkable.